Some people lie to survive, some lie to protect the image they've built, and some people lie so well that eventually they start believing the lie themselves. But Trevor Phillips is something stranger because Trevor lies constantly. He manipulates, he threatens, he betrays, and yet somehow he might be the most honest character in the entire world he inhabits. Not because he tells the truth, but because he never pretends to be anything other than what he is. In a world built on reputation, ambition, and carefully maintained illusions, Trevor Phillips is the only man who refuses to pretend. And that might make him the most dangerous person alive. Not because he's chaotic, but because chaos is the only honest thing left. To understand Trevor Phillips, you have to understand the world he lives in. A world where everyone is performing. Michael DeSanta performs the role of the reformed family man. Franklin Clinton performs the role of the ambitious, self-made success story. Even the criminals around them perform their own versions of respectability. Everyone is selling something, a lifestyle, a reputation, a narrative, and Trevor burns narratives to the ground. Former Air Force pilot, meth manufacturer, gang leader, drug trafficker, psychopath. Trevor Phillips exists in the desert outskirts of San Andreas, far away from the polished illusion of Los Santos. And that distance matters, because Trevor doesn't live inside the system, he lives outside it, which means he doesn't have to follow its rules or maintain its lies. But Trevor wasn't always alone. Once upon a time, Trevor was part of a partnership, a criminal brotherhood built on loyalty and shared ambition. Him and Michael, two men who trusted each other enough to rob banks together, two men who believed they understood each other, until one of them decided the performance mattered more than the truth. And from that moment on, Trevor Phillips became something else, not just a criminal, but a living contradiction, a man who lies constantly, but never pretends. Trevor Phillips is often described as chaos, but that word misses the deeper point. Chaos isn't Trevor's identity. Chaos is his reaction, because Trevor Phillips sees through people in a way most characters in his world refuse to. He sees the performance, the fake politeness, the moral justifications, the carefully crafted excuses. Michael pretends he became a criminal because he had no choice. Trevor knows that's a lie. Franklin tells himself that success will somehow make him better than the people he grew up around. Trevor knows that's a lie too. Even the criminals Trevor works with try to pretend they follow rules, codes, structures, but Trevor understands something uncomfortable. There are no rules, there never were. Everyone is just pretending there are, and when someone refuses to participate in the performance, the system labels them insane. That's Trevor's real role in the story, not villain, not hero, but disruption. Because Trevor exposes something about human nature that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. The truth that identity is often just a story we tell ourselves. Most characters in Grand Theft Auto 5 believe they are in control of their lives. Michael believes he controls his family. Franklin believes he controls his future. The criminals believe they control their territory. But Trevor doesn't believe in control. He believes in impulse, emotion, reaction. And strangely enough, that makes him the most honest person in the room. Because Trevor never hides what he feels. When he's angry, he explodes. When he's loyal, he's fiercely loyal. When he feels betrayed, the world burns. There's no filter, no performance, just raw human emotion. And that terrifies everyone around him, because Trevor represents something people don't like to confront. The idea that beneath all our social rules and expectations, we might not be as civilized as we pretend. Trevor's entire worldview is shaped by one moment, the moment he believed Michael died. Not just because he lost a partner, but because Trevor believed their loyalty meant something. To Trevor, loyalty isn't a word, it's a law, a sacred contract. If you ride together, you ride forever. That's the code Trevor lives by. But Michael didn't follow that code. Michael chose survival, comfort, family, and most importantly, the illusion of legitimacy. He faked his death, built a suburban life, pretended the past never happened. And for Trevor, that wasn't just betrayal. It was proof that everyone lies, not just to others, but to themselves. Which is why Trevor's anger toward Michael isn't just rage. It's disappointment, because Trevor believed Michael was the one person who understood the truth, that they were criminals, that they liked being criminals, that the chaos was part of who they were. But Michael tried to escape it, and in doing so, he exposed the biggest lie in the entire story, that people can reinvent themselves without paying the cost of who they used to be. Trevor Phillips isn't just a character, he's a mirror. Every character who encounters Trevor is forced to confront something about themselves. Michael sees the life he abandoned. Franklin sees what happens when ambition has no boundaries. Even minor characters react to Trevor the same way: fear, discomfort, disgust. Not just because he's violent, but because he refuses to hide the parts of himself that everyone else hides. Trevor doesn't pretend to be respectable. He doesn't pretend to be rational. He doesn't pretend to be good. He simply exists exactly as he is. And strangely, that authenticity gives Trevor a kind of moral clarity that other characters lack. Not moral goodness, but moral honesty. Trevor knows he's a monster. Michael pretends he isn't. And in that strange contradiction, Trevor may actually be the more truthful man. Trevor's chaos isn't random, it's philosophical. Every explosion, every violent outburst, every unpredictable decision serves the same purpose: destroying the illusion. Trevor tears down facades. He dismantles social expectations. He reminds people that underneath the suits, the houses, the businesses, and the reputations, human beings are still driven by the same primal instincts they've always had: greed, fear, loyalty, survival. Trevor simply refuses to hide it, which is why the world treats him like a monster, because chaos reveals truths that order tries to bury. And that's the thing about Trevor. Despite everything, Trevor might be the most loyal character in the story. Once someone earns Trevor's trust, that loyalty becomes absolute, dangerously absolute. He will fight for you, kill for you, destroy entire organizations for you. But that loyalty comes with one condition: honesty. Trevor doesn't demand respect. He doesn't demand obedience. He demands truth. And when someone lies to Trevor, the reaction is catastrophic. Because to Trevor, lying is the ultimate betrayal. Not violence, not crime, not even murder, but dishonesty. Which is ironic, because Trevor lies all the time. But Trevor's lies are never about who he is. They're about what he's doing. And that difference matters. Here's the uncomfortable truth about Trevor Philips. He isn't insane, he's honest. Not honest in the traditional sense, but honest about something deeper. Honest about human nature, because Trevor understands something most people spend their lives avoiding. That society runs on performance. People pretend to be moral, pretend to be rational, pretend to be in control. Trevor doesn't pretend, he simply acts on what he feels. And that honesty, that raw emotional transparency, is so unsettling that the world has no choice but to label him a psychopath. Because accepting Trevor's honesty would mean confronting something terrifying: the possibility that beneath all our social rules and expectations, we might not be as different from him as we'd like to believe. Trevor Philips will never be remembered as a hero. He isn't meant to be. He's loud, violent, unpredictable, a man who seems to exist purely to destroy whatever stability he encounters. But maybe Trevor was never meant to represent chaos. Maybe he represents truth, not the comfortable kind, the kind that makes people uneasy. Because Trevor Philips doesn't hide what he is. He doesn't disguise his instincts. He doesn't rewrite his past to make himself look better. He simply exists, raw, unfiltered, dangerously authentic, and in a world where everyone else is carefully managing their image, that kind of honesty becomes terrifying. Not because Trevor Philips is lying, but because he's the only one who isn't pretending. And sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one who refuses to wear a mask.